Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged. You're listening to your hosts, Gree and Steph.
In this podcast, we talk about everything health and well-being, science and technology, and ancient wisdom.
This is for the quirky humans navigating the messy middle, looking for the path to true vitality.
It's for the curious minds and tired bodies looking for clarity, energy, and inspiration that works your way. Hey, it's your friend Grey, intuitive AI and tech whisperer, 60 plus full throttle and talk energy bunny, chasing fun, fairness, and freedom.
And I'm Steph, holistic nurse, soulful scribbler, magnetic mama, dancing through midlife with truth, magic, and messy, wild-hearted freedom.
Hey, Steph, have you ever sat down to do one thing and then suddenly kind of felt frozen or bored or scrolling, avoiding, wondering why you just can't get it together?
Oh, too many times, all the time.
Well, me too, but I don't really beat myself over about it. But I did think for a long time that everybody kept telling me I had to stay focused on one thing, but that's not how my brain works, right? So then people start thinking I'm lazy because I don't get stuff done, but I do get stuff done all the time. But I think it's just a bit of overstimulation at times. It's kind of like, okay, hang on. Oh, look, there's that butterfly again. We talk about butterflies. But I don't know what it's been like for you, but I do think often people with ADHD or other neurodivergent traits get seen as lazy, or maybe we impose that on ourselves. We don't know. But how's that been for you?
Well, I definitely have been self-critical and felt lazy when now I'm kind of thinking, what if it's not laziness, and what if it's more about my nervous system asking for stillness? But I resisted that for so long and I kind of felt like a failure. And what I'm learning now, it's about learning my patterns and inviting my body to just be.
So this episode is a deep exhale. You are not behind. You're just saturated. And you're allowed to rest and be kind to yourself.
Totally. I 100% agree. I'm excited to get on to this topic.
It is kind of funny this, overstimulation is not the same as laziness, right? So my brain, like my computer, has about, hundreds of tabs open, right? And I've figured out how to do it because I've found something inside Google Chrome that allows me to have tab groups. And I can group things together. But, it's also, inside my brain, I've always got things going. I mean, last night I was like kind of waking up going, I need this, I should do this, I should do this, I should do that, and it's all, quite noisy. And it's like a noisy room, which I know I can't actually survive in a noisy room because I can't hear things. But it's kind of, inside my brain is like notifications. It's like little decisions all the time. It's unfinished loops. And they sometimes wear me down. In fact, they keep me awake at night when I'm not meant to be awake. But because I like to get shit done.
Yeah.
I keep calling
lots of shit, not just not a normal amount of shit.
but I must admit, with my current supplements and my current brain space, I actually feel like I can focus on this thing, get as much done of that until I get bored. And then I can go and put it back on my board and I can focus on the next thing. So I can actually run multiple things in parallel. I know, allegedly, that's not possible. In my world, it's very possible. But anyway, I went off on a tangent there. But I just can be a bit sort of a sensory overload and cognitive fatigue sometimes. But I just have had to accept that's how my brain works.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes in the parenting world, perhaps, you also, well, for me, I feel like and my nature and kind of actually in doing some research around this topic a bit more deeply for this episode, I started thinking, holy shit, I'm way more ADHD than I realized. And I think that even though I was conscious I was definitely neurospicy, I have never received a formal diagnosis. But I think for me, it was a lot of emotional heaviness and loading. And as someone who's a chronic people pleaser and reforming that behavior,
Welcome to
and
the
then
world.
yeah. But also parenting, like the mental load of kids' diaries and schedules, and keeping up with all the school lingo, what's forms, activities, after school stuff, then extracurricular stuff, and just knowing where you have to be, when, why, and where, at what time is something that's definitely heavy for me. And now that I'm becoming more and more aware of my patterns and behaviors and having this sort of ADHD umbrella spectrum, it's kind of helping me to understand and be less berating on myself about being lazy and not necessarily having that guilt. And that potentially that's been a survival response, and that I've always just been doing my best. So I think the reframe for me has been that I'm not actually lazy. It's
You're
been the
definitely
wrong
not lazy.
label. It's been the
Because
wrong
I mean,
label.
I'm going to go a little bit off script. Not that we really have a script, but I want to go off to something, and it might come later in the script. I don't know. I just riff on my life experience and the conversations that I have, and I think
This way.
and we'll probably cover a little bit of that later on about how often women don't get diagnosed or go undetected. Women and girls go undetected in the neurodivergent spectrum, maybe both in ADHD and autism spectrum and that sort of stuff. But I wanted to just touch on something there, because I know there's a lot of people, and I have friends and family that have been diagnosed with ADHD as adults, around 50 plus. And it's not actually ADHD that's the problem. The ADHD has been a superpower. That's what's made them be really successful in life as parents, in the workplace, as leaders, and all that sort of stuff. And then you hit the wall. And I know we've talked about burnout before, but burnout is so real. And it is not a medical diagnosis in most countries. I think Sweden and Denmark are two of the only countries that actually have it. Not Norway, where my family live, but it's. I think it's really, really important to, we live in a neurotypical, very linear world. You are supposed to do things this way, supposed to do things this way. But if your brain doesn't work that way, stuff it. So I just want to sort of flag that any of these spectra are not necessarily a problem, but they become a problem when they come with other things. Because if you've got burnout and you've got ADHD at the same time, that is difficult to manage, because you go, I could do this, I could do that. Oh, you fall through the floor, sort of thing. So
I mean, I was looking at some of the research, and it was kind of saying that, particularly because women have not been flagged or identified as having ADHD, and then working in kind of neurotypical jobs, they often will, because it's undiagnosed, unrecognized, and hasn't been up until recently any research or language around it. Those women have often been left to feel, incapable, inadequate, lacking confidence, because they kind of got labeled as not fitting in, or not, and then this kind of snowball effect of mental health issues creeping in, because they're not having a language to kind of receive what they're trying to express. And that's sort of become a thing. And now that the research is picking up that women, but they present differently, I guess, to what boys do. And I think it was
As girls,
inattentive.
at childhood, definitely different,
Mm,
often. Mm.
mm. But I also think it's the inattentiveness, which I am also exploring a bit more. It's not like, they don't act out or, yell and scream. It's probably they more internalize and therefore, shut down and freeze. And that's where that potential laziness might look like laziness, but it's actually all those tabs are open and you're like, bloody hell, where do I start? And so it's frozen.
And that is a real thing with anybody with ADHD. It's like that, the executive function, or the, okay, where do I get started? I know I should do it. But which one first, And it does have a lot of similarities with what people experience with depression, and often gets mistaken for depression.
Mm.
But the treatment or the way we address it is quite different.
A recent review found that girls and women often experience unique symptom patterns, e.g., more inattentive, more internalized restlessness, more emotional executive function impacts, and that hormonal transitions, menstruation, pregnancy,
Which is our
perimenopause,
entire life.
menopause, yeah, can magnify the ADHD symptoms.
To function as well, right? Yeah, I think that what quite often happens with parents, and specifically moms, because they're also, and I'm going to do a big shout out to moms and women in general, because in addition to the work that we do for money, we do so much work that we don't
Mm,
get paid for, but
yeah. Oh
requires.
my God.
And you talked about it right at the beginning, that's with having kids and all that sort of stuff. I don't even have kids. I've got a dog, right? I've had multiple dogs, but I have a dog and a
You're a
partner
fur mama, fur baby mama.
fur baby mama. But but we still juggle so many different things, and we're thinking about that that I don't think that men necessarily do. So that will have an impact on the inattentiveness or the executive function, because you're going, what the? I always have to be on the alert in case my kids, including fur babies,
Mm, mm.
something's wrong with them. And men don't necessarily have that in general. There are, I'm sure, a few men who do, but there is not that burden,
Yeah.
positive burden, but there is and I don't really like the term burden, but it is what it is, right? So it is something that actually
Well,
sits with
maybe it's a
us
mental
generally.
load rather than
Yeah,
burden. Like
yeah.
there's a different
But I think
mental load.
the
And
medical term is burden.
is it? Oh.
I think so. Anyway, so I do think it's really important to do that. And back to what you were saying about, hormonal changes. There is plenty of proof that when you go through perimenopause, and it can trigger ADHD,
Mm,
the negative sides of ADHD, because you
mm.
probably always had it. It doesn't start it. You probably always
No,
had it, but
that's right.
it.
And you probably, and what I've been thinking about is, obviously as I become more aware of my tendencies and behaviors and patterns that I've created, and like I was saying, when I was reading this research, I was like, oh wow, I am way more ADHD than I realized. But as a kid, and when I was a kid, that sort of diagnosis didn't exist. And on top of that, my family did not believe in mental health issues. We had to take, you only went to the doctor if you were dying, and you definitely wouldn't tell them about any mental health concerns or worries, because that was just private business that no one needed to know about. You know what I mean? And so it was probably something that I pushed away and thought it couldn't be that anything to do with my brain, because I wasn't necessarily in a space where that was an accepted thought. So on top of that, we've come to learn that in our family, ADHD does exist. And what I was trying to get to was that as a kid, I kind of self-regulated my own ADHD behaviors. So I couldn't sleep. I would listen to music, classical music, before I'd go to sleep. I taught myself to do that. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah,
And
so the coping mechanisms that we come up with to actually survive and things like that.
and
Yeah.
exercise. My mum
Mm,
and I used to get up at 5 o'clock and go for a run 3 to 4 times a week. I played lots of sport, and so I kind of
mm,
self-soothed my ADHD
mm.
behaviors that only really became apparent to me last night when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about in this podcast. So, you know, the thing is that, yeah, you can go and get diagnosed, and maybe depending on whereabouts you sit on the spectrum, you
I
might
also
need
think it's what the
medications.
yeah, I think, and I think people can choose whatever is right for them, right?
100%.
I'm
Exactly.
very happy. I don't have burnout, so that does there's no comorbidity. Is that what it's called in medical
Yeah.
terms? You're the medical person there, but I do think that it's you know it is up to you what you choose to do, and unfortunately, it's also up to your GP or your health providers to recommend things. I'm saying unfortunately because I think for somebody who wanted to become a doctor, I'm so glad I didn't, because I think there's a lot of guesswork, right?
Mm,
When it
mm,
comes to mental health and things like that, and being, because you want to help people, you go into the profession because you want to help people, and then there's all these different you know, things that happen that weren't even there when you were there. And
mm, mm.
speaking of which, nutrition is one of them. Doctors they don't learn about nutrition at all, right?
Oh, they get a pretty
Is it? I
basic.
think it's like a week over 7 years or 5 years. Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, right. It's probably one
So
subject in all, like one topic in all of
yeah,
the, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we
But
should move forward because because we are rambling on as we always do. Me more than
well,
you today, I think.
do you want to share about how you think, or how you've experienced AI can help
Well, AI or
in?
technology, I think, because I think that
Mm,
once you get aware of it, and like I'm only just kind of stepping into that neurospicy thing, and I fully acknowledge that other people have a much bigger challenge with it than I do. It's in my family, you know. Some are medicated, some are not. Um, but I've found that um, you know sometimes you kind of think that using technology or AI for life admin, to manage your life is a bit of cheating, but I think it's actually a trauma aware strategy, right? So because a
mm,
lot of these things, we all have some sort of childhood trauma, some sort of trauma in our life. However,
mm.
uh, you know, it could be very different things for every different people, but um,
Well, I believe if we were perfect, we wouldn't even be here. So there has to be something you have to learn on this life, in this life, on this planet at this time.
yeah.
So, you know,
But I think that for my brain, at least, there's sort of, there's options, having lots of options. That's a problem. Except I don't like not having options, right? But
mm,
being able to make a decision between things has always been, should it be this one? Should it be that one? But now I've learned, because my partner says that I always reach the right decision at the end, right? So I kind of go, okay, I'm just going to let myself do that. But sometimes I just dump it. I mean, I might even dump it into a chat to myself on WhatsApp.
mm,
Sometimes I
mm.
do that because I just want to get it out of my brain
It's
so it
also like
doesn't get in the way.
journaling in some way. That's
Yeah,
like
but I
journaling.
don't do that. I think
You don't
journaling
write.
is brilliant, but
Mm.
I just don't find the time for it at the moment. I don't make the time for it. That's what I don't make the time for it, right? But I do think that, like, it's interesting because if you look at, let's talk about ChatGPT or large language models and things, and that I live a lot of my time in ChatGPT, and sometimes just doing a brain dump there to help make a decision is gives me so much time back, so and I use AI for a lot of different things, not just for planning, not just for writing emails and that sort of stuff. I actually use it to kind of go, okay, should I do this thing or that thing? Or I go, can you give me an analysis of bleh? And I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talk to it.
yeah.
I just put the microphone on and say, okay,
Mm,
here's what's going on in my head, brain dump. Let's try and
mm,
sort these things out. And that helps me. Don't know
mm.
how it might help others, but that's really helpful for me. So Yeah, so
Well,
it's
I'm just in the process of trying to coordinate my ChatGPT to my calendar. So you know me and my calendars, and trying to reel them
your
into.
calendars that you don't follow, you mean?
Yeah, so I thought if I could coordinate something with ChatGPT, so
Mm.
and I know that I double book myself all the time. I'm often running late because I get sidetracked and find something, and I think I misjudge how much time I have, and I can squeeze something else in before I do that. So,
Yeah.
again, I was thinking, okay, when I was looking at tools and what we've been talking
Mm,
about, how can I coordinate and use AI to
mm.
streamline and feed back to me? Like, I feed it what I need, and
Yep,
it keeps me
yep.
on track.
But I think that's
If
really, really
possible.
important. Yeah,
Mm,
because you could just go, these are all the things I need to do and
mm.
things. But there's another tool that I think is not so, it's not AI at all, but you know how for some things we need to put it in our calendar and say, I'm going to block out this time for it. What my sister told me that she does is she just has a list of, I'm going to spend an hour on this. Can't remember if we've spoken about this before, but you know, for those who
Yeah,
are
we
listening,
have.
I'm going to spend an hour on laundry. We have done that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's such a good tip to just go,
Mm,
instead of saying, I'm going to do this from that to that, but
mm.
I'm going to do this for this time, amount of time today, and then just kind of have that to tick it off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I think
Do you know,
that's a
and
useful.
I think what ADHD and all of these type of neurodiverse um, labels, which
Mhm.
for me for a long time I avoided it, because when you read the science, it's like your deficit, like it's a
I don't think
brain
so.
problem. I know, but the research, when you read it, it's
Uh,
like it's a deficit in this or whatever. So I found it quite negative, and then I was thinking, well, I don't have a deficit. Do you know what I mean? So I was fighting with the research because
mm,
it didn't, even though I understand why they have to do that, because
mm,
you have to have a you have to have a control, and you have to be able to change, be able to detect differences, and as the SD and all those things, you need that. But the way then they write it sounds like it's a deficit until you get to like the last sentence, and they're like, and then it's so good you can be like whatever. So um I've had to really work on reframing neurodiversity as like, and particularly when you think about nature and cultural diversity, and how that adds vibrancy to
mm,
the community and to the
mm, mm,
garden
mm,
and
mm,
what have you. And so for me, it's really been a reframe about how neurodivergence isn't a deficit. It's more contributing to the diversity of
absolutely.
how people think.
Yeah.
And particularly with my daughter having dyslexia, and another thing that runs in our
Neurodivergent.
family.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, and well, it runs in our family, and again, we sort of resisted. It's so prevalent, but none of us got tested, even though we knew it was there, because we were scared of the label. And I think that hopefully creating space and
mm,
conversations like this helps
yeah.
reduce the stigma and the labeling, and
Yeah.
not seeing it as a deficit, but as an actual superpower, like you said earlier. It's a superpower to think differently. It's a superpower to have creativity that no one else thinks about. It's a
Mm,
superpower to
mm,
find ways to do things that people haven't been
yeah.
doing before. So, yeah, I found that's been my journey, is to reframe, not seeing it as a negative, but seeing it as a superpower. And I'm still working on that, because
It's going to take more
it's,
than a day.
it's new.
Just hang around
Yeah.
with me, you'll be all right with it. I mean, like I said, um,
And sorry, just one
I
other
just,
thing.
yeah,
Oh, you go.
you go.
One other thing was that is something that I've been working on, is just recognizing my patterning, because I know if I'm overstimulated and I've got too many things to do and all my tabs are open, I freeze. And then I tell myself
Inside
I'm
your head or on
lazy.
the computer?
Both, both, in all facets of life. And, like, I kind of just want to go to read my book. Like, I find an escape route, and then I
Mm,
come back to it and it's worse, like, so just
mm,
working on that, and recognizing the patterns, so that it's pattern recognition of my own self. And once you
mm,
sort of recognize the patterning of my behaviors. That's what you've got to work with.
mm,
And
mm,
that's been my new discovery in the last year or so, is what patterns and circles I've created based on my fear and insecurities and all the
mm,
things that have caused me to freeze and open too many tabs that I can't handle. And so now that I'm kind to, kind of rewiring and using my neuroplasticity skills to
mm.
recreate these patterns of behavior that are more efficient and effective and hopefully more creative and
Yeah,
beneficial to people, and not being so hard on myself that I'm lazy.
yeah. I think I mean, I think it's really important to have mechanisms for that, and I do think then the Chrome tab groups is a very good analogy. It's kind
Mm,
of like having different filing cabinets, right, inside your head, but also on on your tabs. So you have a
I am
filing
actually
cabinet
loving
with
this.
multiple drawers, right,
Mm,
and then you have another one. So I have one that's called admin. If I don't want to do admin, I can close that whole group and then it comes back up again, right? It's the
yeah.
same thing. I have the Zinzino stuff. It's on a separate tab group. Opens up then. I've got one for my book writing.
Mm.
So I have that mechanism on my computer. I can now go and apply that to my inside
Isn't
my
that the
head as well.
same as having Google Workspaces though? Because I've got Google Workspace and then I've got my folders and I can
No,
open
but
those
this is
folders and.
on your tabs.
Mm.
So you can group your
So
tabs.
when
It's
you,
called a tab group. I'll have to show you.
I need to explore it. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It really helps. So Google Workspace and folders and files and that sort of stuff. That's a whole different kettle of thing. This is in your work environment. This is when you've got Chrome open, and you can have a group, and you can close that whole group. When you open it again, it'll open all the tabs that you had open.
Oh, I need that.
Yes, you do. Anyway, we should move on to something else because now
Yes.
we've been dabbling in this for such a long time. But I think a couple of other things that are really important for managing, I guess, overstimulation and um, neurodivergence is really rest. And
Mm,
like we touched briefly on rest before, like in that when you've got too many tab groups open or not tabs open inside your head, it's difficult to sleep, right? But there are different ways of resting as well. So just breathing, meditating,
mm,
and that
mm.
sort of stuff. What's your experience with sleep?
Oh, sleep. I've been very conscious in the last few years of creating a very, not, it's not strict, but a pretty regular sleep routine so that
Mm,
it really triggers me to go to sleep. I actually don't have too much problem going to sleep, but I
never
often,
me. I
yeah,
fall asleep
wake
like
up.
that. Phew.
Yeah, I more wake up about 3, 4 o'clock all the
Mm,
time, and that
mm,
that and depending on where I'm at, getting back to sleep at that point can be tricky. But yeah, it's usually deep breaths. Usually,
yeah.
I get up, go to the loo, and
Belly
then
breathing, get that
yeah,
parasympathetic nervous system working,
yeah,
right?
because once one thought clicks in, it's like
Yep.
woo. So
I hear you,
yes,
sister.
yeah, yeah. But so
I
sleep's just one part of the puzzle, like
mm,
rest.
mm,
Rest is so overlooked in the sense of how important it is
mm.
to allow our bodies to reset
Yep.
and kind of reaccumulate. And I think, particularly women, where we glorify how much we sacrifice and how much we do, and exhaustion is kind of like another badge
Mm.
you can pop on
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
shoulder and
yeah.
take
I'm
it
so
down to
busy.
the.
I'm so
Yeah,
exhausted, right?
yeah, like I'm
Uh,
doing so many
uh,
things, and I definitely have subscribed to that. I've been there, done
uh,
that,
uh, uh,
and
uh,
I'm still working on changing and reframing my worth being
mm,
connected to my output, and
mm,
that's a challenge because I've got to work with my people pleasing mind, and
mm,
not thinking that that's the only way I'm valuable. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess we kind of we're in a world where it's okay to where it's like, so like you said, a badge to be exhausted. So yeah, but I
I
don't know.
and just
Yeah,
no, go.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
Well, I'm just picking up on one of the notes we had down about boundaries. And I think for me, boundaries have also been very leaky. And because I like the badge to be shiny and bright so everyone it recognizes and validates that I'm worthy, therefore my boundaries were quite low, and people were able to jump over or step on them, and that and in itself was so disempowering and adds to the tabs opening, which adds to the overwhelm, right? So boundaries have been another thing that I'm, as a woman in my 40s, I'm working on rewiring what my boundaries look like.
Yeah. And it all comes down to worth and that sort of stuff, which we also should be talking about in the not too distant future, I think.
Self-worth.
And
That's a big one.
trauma and PTSD and goodness knows what. But I guess if we sort of try to bring it back together, I don't know, how do you say it? Our nervous system is not really a machine. It's
We're not
like you said
ChatGPT.
before. Well, ChatGPT isn't a machine either, and ChatGPT just takes the data that's there. Did you see the news now? Hear the news about
Tell me.
the finding about how they can't just go ahead and use all the data that they're scraping and use that to train the GPTs because it's all copyrighted. So creators and things. Yeah, so there's things going on there. So because there was a period where it would take data from, anyway, this has nothing to do with neurodivergence. It's just something I heard on the news while I was out walking today. But I did like your analogy of the garden, of how our how neurodivergence or diversity in itself is more like a garden, and it needs rest and it needs rhythm and it needs seasons. So I love that part of it that we were talking about before. And yeah.
And yeah, I was going to say, well, tech is a very helpful tool, but it's not the be all and end all that's going to resolve it. But I do think, as we've said in all our episodes, that it's a good mirror, and it is able to help you identify perhaps where your gaps are, where your strengths are, and give you something to work with, and then that's up to you. ChatGPT and AI can't do those things for you, so it's not here to fix you as such.
But I think it's actually about how we use it. So when I work with people, I always talk about what is the biggest problem that you've got to solve. And I've been in these rooms where we kind of write down, the last 2 weeks I did all of these things, and I'm going, well, actually, let's put that to the side. As a neurospicy person, it's the things that I don't do that I need help with, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Because I'm avoiding them because I'm kind of going, well, that's boring. I don't like it. Not a happy space for me. It's kind of like
you're in my brain. Yes.
Yeah, because it's seriously. It's those things that we actually need to find technologies or AI or people to help us with. The things that don't bring us joy. Let's bring more joy to the world, to our world.
Yeah,
because
totally.
I think that it's that we're trying to fit into, like, we set rules for ourselves. We think the world has set rules for us, but we decided that those rules are, I have to act in a certain way to fit in with those rules, but nobody else probably wants you to. But because for all the people pleasers out there, all the shapeshifters out there, you need to buy my book. No,
coming soon.
It's seriously less than 3 weeks now. But it's really about trying to figure out how we fit in and what we can actually help ourselves with using technology. What problems do we want to solve for ourselves, but also not taking a board, because the way you see yourself is not necessarily how other people see you. Isn't there a movie that says um to see yourself in somebody else's eyes?
Oh, I
Like, I
haven't
think
watched
it's like
it.
a love rom-com or something like that. Or maybe I'm mixing it up with a totally different one. But there's that being able to see yourself through other people's eyes, because they don't see your diminished self. They
No.
see your big self. They see your
Mm.
big personality. They see who you are, what you bring to the room. They see your energy. They see your kindness and those kind of things. But if you have a tiny little bit of rejection sensitivity then I just, if they look away, I think they don't like what I'm saying, but they might just be thinking, right?
Mm.
And then I go
Yeah.
and I create a story to say, oh, they didn't like me. What I said wasn't right. You know? Whole
Yeah.
different episode, I think. We've got so
Yeah.
many episodes we need to touch. And in the new year, we'll be bringing in a few guests as well. So you don't need to listen to just us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although we're funny though.
And so I guess any tips, Gree, on how you think AI could just sort of relieve the stress so you can do more things that bring you joy, but without overstimulating and adding another tab open.
Tabs are good. Just as long as you can.
Yeah, but not too many.
And as long as you can close them off and open them up again, which you can now. You see, even in ChatGPT, you've got projects, right? And you can have different talks inside of that. I think for me, the best thing for me is really to do a brain dump in there and say, listen, I've got all these different things. I'm going to sort them out, systemize them for me. Here are my thoughts. That's one of the things that works for me. Obviously, I then course correct it because it never gets it right. So that is a skill in itself to have to be able to do that. But that's kind of AI. But I think there are other things than AI. Like there are other tools that we can use. Just like I was talking to somebody earlier today, Pomodoro technique, like setting a time limit for when you're going to do stuff, so you don't go into that time warp where you've gotten and suddenly it's like 5 hours later. Right.
And one of the things I was recommended was set a time limit, but add a buffer.
But that's what, like the Pomodoro technique, it says you work for 25 minutes, then you do 5 minutes break. You work for 25 minutes, 5 minutes break, work for 25 minutes, 15 minutes longer break, right? I don't necessarily follow it, but it makes me aware of the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
But just different tools work for different people. Some people love to put a project plan together, like things like Monday or ClickUp or that sort of stuff. It's a waste of time for me. I've done it so many times, and I'm going, well, that was stupid because I'm not going to follow it.
It's just
that's not how my brain works.
Yeah.
So it's whatever works for you. That works for some people. I have friends with ADHD that works really, really well for. But most of my friends with ADHD, it doesn't work for them. It's more about being more fluid, and it's actually about being kind to yourself.
And
so you're not
I guess
lazy. You're overstimulated. You need to be kind to yourself.
Exactly. And then reward yourself with when something does click and it does work, have a little celebration, because that's what I forget to do. But that cements it in your brain. You're like, oh yeah, it works. And so stick with that until it doesn't work.
What you did
anymore.
today, you have this beautiful cacao, don't you? That just spilled all over your plate, over your table.
I did, and it's yes. I tried something new, but it didn't quite work out in the way that I'd hoped. But that's okay.
But then you just need to be kind to yourself and have a laugh.
And I didn't lose my shit. I just was like, oh dear, I bumped my very expensive cacao over and spilt it all over my table. Lucky it didn't break my computer.
That's right. Because I was here with you and I watched the calm and I thought,
Thank you, cacao.
Anyway, we should wrap up because we've been going.
Yes.
See, this is what happens when the tech doesn't fail us. We keep talking and talking and talking.
I know, it's too long. But that's okay. I'm going to add a reflection prompt for everybody listening. So I challenge people, whether you have ADHD or not, or you're in the neurodivergent space, and even if you're not, what kind of rest is your nervous system asking for? Just check in today and ask yourself, how is your nervous system going, and what does it need? And listen to the answer, and whatever comes to your mind, that's kind of what it is for the day, without judgment, without saying shh or sending it off. Like, let it be there and sit with it. And it sounds easy, but I just encourage you to try it. So
do as we say,
today.
not as I do.
I often check in with my I check in daily.
I know you do. I said do as we say, not as I do. So we know all of these things, but it's a good point. And I don't think we've decided entirely what our next episode is, but we have a few different ones up. We've got one about skin and screens, love boundaries. I do like that.
Ooh. I wouldn't mind exploring boundaries, because I do think lots of women in the middle age are rediscovering their boundaries, and I think a part of the struggle is how to reset them after you realize. Well, maybe we'll do that. Does that sound okay?
I think boundaries sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay.
After this very long episode that we've done today, because the tech didn't throw us out.
I know. Amazing.
All right.
But the cacao spilled over. Anyway. Well, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Talk to you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on Vitalify Unplugged. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with a friend. Hit follow or subscribe. And don't forget, we love hearing from you. So send us a message and tell us what's lighting you up. See you in the next episode.